Give me a break, man. Give me a break.
Me too. The Me Too movement. I want to talk about that today. My name is Victor. Give me a break, man. Give me a flake, man. Thanks for clicking on my video. We're going to be talking about certain aspects of the Me Too movement. This is a laundry video, by the way, which means it'll be a little bit long. I'm going to cover a lot of topics, including the Me Too movement in Japan, the Aziz accusations and how people are responding to that. James Franco, the accusations towards him and how he responded to that. John Lasseter, who has also been caught up in this controversy, but not many people heard about him. And anything else? Other stuff. We'll see. We'll get to it. Oh, of course, Trump. Always got to talk about Trump. Anyway, if you don't, I don't even know where to start about this. Maybe we should go back in time, give you a little history and some things that I think are interesting. The Me Too movement, if you don't know, was actually started by a minority. I forgot her name. About 10 years ago. I'm thinking she's a minority, but anyway, it was started with the intention of helping minority women, especially. Of course, you know, anyone who's a victim, who's been victimized or sexually harassed or molested, etc., raped, etc. 10 years ago it was started, and it was started to protect minorities, mostly. And it only really picked up steam when a white man brought it to the front. The actor in the Star Trek Discovery TV show, I forgot his name, you know, he tweeted out that Kevin Spacey, isn't it, what a world where you accuse people by Twitter now. I mean, everything is done by Twitter. It's completely, seems crazy, like you would write that, you would write a tweet and then suddenly it's like official, it's news, right? It's crazy, huh? Anyway, so not until a white man did this become kind of a big deal. And if you've lived at all in the world, it's kind of an interesting thing how things that exist in minority communities or cultures or societies are largely ignored by the majority white society that America is. And I guess that mostly whites in the media, they largely ignore things that are happening in minority communities until a white person is affected or thinks it's cool, right? And you know, there's lots of examples of this. Some of them, I guess the least major ones would be like cultural appropriation, where especially blacks in America, would start some really cool fashion thing in the ghetto, and then is that racist to even say ghetto? I don't know, in poor communities, and then whites will notice that and think, oh, that's a great idea, we're going to do that too. You know, I remember going to New York City in 1985. And you know, the cool thing in those days was to wear your sneakers, your basketball shoes, with the shoelaces very loose and kind of open, and the top of the shoe kind of, you know, very loosely, you know, not tight on your body, and very very loose shoelaces and stuff. I don't actually remember the trend, but anyway, I remember meeting a black guy saying, you know, we've been doing that for years, and you know, the whites just stole it from us, right? Anyway, whatever. And of course, the same thing happened to crack, right? Crack had been around for years, but not until it became a problem in white communities did the media start paying attention. Same thing happened, I'm thinking here too. You know, one white man speaks up, and suddenly it's getting all this attention. Of course, everyone knows that the casting couch has gone on and has existed forever. That's not really an issue. But it's not just the casting couch, it's sexual harassment everywhere in the world. And how we're dealing with it it's been pretty interesting to me, and how the media is dealing with it. I have talked about it before, but things in this video are going to be a little bit different. Anyway, that's a bit of history I wanted to bring up. Now, last time I talked about this, I did a walk around Nagoya video. It's raining today, so I can't do that. And I forgot to mention a couple of people. I did mention C.K. Lewis, but it always bothered me, you know, and I even said in that video, it kind of bothered me that he was getting the same kind of, he was being categorized in the same, he was put in the same category with other people I think are much more dangerous predators like Kevin Spacey or Harvey Weinstein. I mean, anyone who wants to masturbate to a plant, that's a dangerous man there. But anyway, C.K. Lewis, that's one thing I didn't bring up before. And another guy I didn't bring up, I forgot to bring up, was John Lasseter. And it's interesting to me that John Lasseter has not been focused on in the media. And I'm thinking that, you know, of course we know a kind of media bias exists. I wouldn't go so far as to say the word fake news, because I think that's just overused. And it's confusing these days, you know. Anything Trump doesn't like is considered fake news, but there is definitely a bias, of course, but it's always existed in the media for as far as anyone can remember. The media just agrees not to report things, certain things. It has, it has boundaries and lines, and they decide we're going to respect this guy's privacy or this person's privacy. Even back in the day when it came to royalty, for example, in England, they wouldn't report certain things. Or when everyone knew that Kennedy was having affairs left and right with Marilyn Monroe among them, the media, the reporters agreed not to report it. So things like that happened before. That seems to be changing a little bit now, but the bias still exists. And one thing that I'm curious about is why. And let me know if I'm wrong, but have you heard about John Lasseter? John Lasseter is the head of Pixar, he was behind all the Toy Story movies. And they all make me cry. And I was very excited to hear that he was making Toy Story 4. The writer of Toy Story 4 quit the project. I read that she had not finished it yet. She had started and then she quit. And then I read another article that said she finished it. Who knows? Anyway, she quit the project because she claims that John Lasseter was making her feel uncomfortable. So what does that mean? I don't know. Other reports, and I'll leave you a link, claim that John Lasseter is just putting his hand on people's legs or hugging. He's a big hugger, Those are the accusations. And anyway, he has stepped down and apologized for making women feel uncomfortable. But what I don't understand is what does that mean? I mean, where is the line? I mean, I put my hand on guys' legs too and pat him on the leg, on the knee or something, Hey, not a lot, but, and I'm sure I've probably hugged some women that, looking back on it now, maybe they were uncomfortable. The thing about sexual harassment, as everyone knows, it's only really sexual harassment if you feel uncomfortable. Given that, it's not sexual harassment if the woman does feel comfortable. Well, you look beautiful today. You look sexy today. If she's okay with that, then she might just take it away as, oh, that's nice, I don't know. But anyway, John Lasseter has not been focused on in the media, and I wonder why that is. Is it because people respect the good feelings that Pixar has spread throughout the world? I don't know. They don't want to stain that reputation that Pixar has, or is it because there are just better predators out there to focus on that sell sell more newspapers? Am I going to click on the Pixar guy getting accused of sexual harassment, or Kevin Spacey getting accused of sexual harassment? I guess I'd rather see Kevin Spacey as a bad guy than John Lasseter. I don't know. There are a lot of people out there that are I guess make better villains and thus make sell more newspapers than John Lasseter, but he hasn't really been focused on. But on the other side, the other weird thing is that Trump, as even if you support Trump, even if you do support him, you got to admit he is really hated by the media, and he has been accused most recently in the last few days. Again, he's been accused of some more evidence has come up that he did actually pay off a porn star to sleep with him 2 years after he got married with Melanie, and he ran around his hotel room wearing only his whitey tighties. But the media is kind of not really paying attention to that either. Is it because he said shithole? Is it because there are better ways to sell newspapers now? You don't get the clicks with a porn star and Trump, which is amazing, right? I mean, that's the story, right? But for some reason, the media is not really focusing on that either, which is I think strange. Anyway, about those two things. C.K. Lewis. Let me pop. There are links to everything I'm talking about here, but C.K. Lewis. I mentioned in my last video about sexual harassment that I was uncomfortable with how he was put in the same category as predators like Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein, and I got some clap back, I guess, in my comment section. Is that the way we use that expression now? I got some people complained. Okay. Anyway, I thought it's not nearly as bad because it's not, right? And I couldn't really verbalize my feelings then. But this lady here, her name is, what's her name? Miyoko. Ask Miyoko, I think. I'll leave a link to her too. She's, I think, a sex therapist or something, but as well as being Japanese, at least in name, but she seems to speak native English. She's a native English speaker, and she talks about something that I thought, she made a very good point, and the video is very highly rated as well. I'm not the only one who agrees with this point, which is that if women want to be respected and they want equal footing, then when they give consent, that consent has to mean something. So when Louis C.K. asks a woman if he can pleasure himself, choke the chicken, right? Spank the monkey in front of her, and she says yes, then that's got to mean something. I mean, she did say yes. And if she says no, then fine. And if of course, if it's in an office situation, it's a fucked up question to ask anybody. But if it's being asked and it's being agreed to, then, you can't really say that he harassed anybody. He asked, and but I think Louis C.K. even feels like, well, I guess I did do something wrong. I mean, you got to feel guilty for doing that. I mean, I'd feel pretty guilty if that came out like, yeah, Victor's been asking people. No, he did ask permission. There is definitely a difference between asking permission and just forcing someone's head on to you, and violate and sexually molesting their potted plants in the room. I mean, there's a lot of screwed up stuff that Harvey Weinstein and other people did that are very different from what C.K. Lewis did. So anyway, good. If my argument just now hasn't convinced you, please go watch her video and then tell me if you're not convinced. Links again in the description to that. Another thing, let's come back. Those are the things I wanted to get out of the way that are in the past. Let's get to the present now. James Franco the other day won a Golden Globe for, what was it, Best Movie or Best Actor? I don't know, something like that. But he was then on the Stephen Colbert show. I'm a big Stephen Colbert fan. I recently told a friend about this who hates Stephen Colbert, and he's like, I'm not going to watch Stephen Colbert no matter what. I'm like, you got to watch this interview, because even if you hate Stephen Colbert, I thought James Franco did an excellent, if not sneaky job of handling the accusation. So a little backstory on this. James Franco won the Golden Globe for something big movie. I think it was a movie. And then he was wearing a Me Too pin on his lapel or something. And he was then tweeted again. Twitter, tweets that Twitter's behind everything. They're the root of all evil. Some ladies, of course, tweeted out that he was a scumbag, and he was after 17-year-old girls, and he forced some girl onto his crotch and to perform on him. And he forces his actresses, when he did some acting studio, and he forces his actresses to do nude scenes and things like that. And his response, and I want to play you his response, because I think he did a great job. I just got this. His response is this. Hope you can pick this up. You ready? Here we go.
That were on Twitter are not accurate, but I completely support people coming out and being able to have a voice, because they didn't have a voice for so long. So I don't want to, shut them down in any way. It's I think a good thing, and I support it.
So his response is basically, let them talk, let them complain, right? The thing is, I'll read to you one more time, and I've got the link here. The things that I heard that were on Twitter are not accurate, but I completely support people coming out and being able to have a voice, because they didn't have a voice for so long. So I don't want to shut them down in any way. It's a good thing, and I support it. So he's basically saying, I'm not going to use my clout to refute these ladies. I'll just say, well, but he kind of did. See, he was sneaky, because he did. He said, well, that's not really the way it happened, but I'm not gonna say anything else. Let them have a voice, let them talk, which I thought was great. And when I saw the interview, first of all, I thought Stephen Colbert was a real wimp when it came to interviewing him in this particular case, but whatever. Softball questions, but the fact that he asked it all is a big deal, which is a good step in the right direction. But this is a great way to handle it if you're ever accused of it, and saying, you're right. Something happened, or let me hear what you got to say. Go ahead and say it. I'm not gonna say anything. Tell it to the world. Anyway, I was pretty impressed, and a couple of days later, after I had this idea in my head, like, whoa, good job there. But the funny thing is, I kind of don't believe him. I think he actually did some screwed up shit. That's my impression of him, but you can't convict someone on that just because you feel he's kind of seedy or weird. or scuzzy, you know. He just feels like that jock. He feels like that good-looking jock asshole that we knew in high school, you know. Gets away with shit. But, you know, that's no reason to convict someone. Anyway, good job on that, and a good way to handle it. I interrupt this video to bring to you another controversy. I almost forgot. Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams were in a movie, something about all the money. Kevin Spacey was supposed to be in it, but after the controversy, after Kevin Spacey was outed as a sexual predator, they decided to reshoot the whole movie using another actor. I forgot who the other actor, what his name was. But anyway, Mark Wahlberg has a clause in his contract that allows him to gives him power over the movie, right? And he exercised that power, and he said, I'm not doing any reshoots unless you guys pay me. And so he got $1 million out of it, right? Anyway, Michelle Williams, who was just happy that Kevin Spacey was out of it because he's a sexual predator, agreed to do the whole the reshoots for $80 a day. Mark Wahlberg ended up getting paid 1,000 times more than she did. I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think it has anything to do with anything except that Mark Wahlberg had a contract already, and his agent, probably his agent, you know, that's his job, is to make him money. And they decided, well, screw the company, you know, this is the way things work, right? We've got an advantage here. They had a business advantage. It was a business decision. So they got paid, you know, and that's the way things work. I mean, it's not they had the company over a barrel. But what ends up happening is that he gets shamed into feeling bad about something that has nothing to do with sexual impropriety at all. It's just a business thing. You have a huge company over a barrel. Get paid, you know, get your money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's cutthroat, yeah, but you think the company cares, man? No. So Mark he had the advantage there. So he took care of it. But you know, he's shamed by this Me Too movement, you know, to bend over basically, and literally well, not literally, but figuratively, very metaphorically speaking, bend over and take it. And so he does. And on top of it, he donates $500,000. Because you can't afford to look like a bad guy in this Me Too movement. That's a shame, I think. Okay, back to your video now. Aziz Azir, as you may have known, Aziz Azir am I saying his name right? He is I think he's a Muslim Canadian, speaks perfect English, stand-up comedian. Very, very funny guy, and the mastermind behind the Master of None Netflix series. I think they're on season 2 now. Very interesting, great scripts, especially if you want to teach them. By the way, the scripts are very interesting. They tackle one theme at a time. Every show tackles one theme, and he's in it, kind of playing an exaggerated form of himself. And they talk about different things like parents and children, having children, and sex and dating, and a whole bunch of stuff. Stereotypes, but he was accused by a 23-year-old woman who anonymously calls herself Grace. She's a photographer, that's all we know, but basically she said that she went out on a date with this guy, and he confirms that it's true, you know, that they went out, they met, they texted each other, they met up, they went out, they went back to his place. He performed on her, he went down on her, and then he asked her to return the favor. She did, and then she went home, and then she texted him that was very uncomfortable, and she claimed it was the worst thing that's ever happened to her in her life. And at that point, I was like, what? You know, what? How does that count at all as sexual harassment? She claims she never said no, but she claims that he didn't pick up on certain verbal and physical cues, right? But as a man who was single for a long, long time, before I got married, I know that all of you guys out there will agree that there have been many situations when women have said they're not going to do something, And then surprisingly, they do it. Even though they said, well, I'm not really, don't like doing stuff like this or that, or I don't know if I want to go out with you, things like that. But then later, things change, right? What can I say? Except that things are not clear sometimes. And this woman here, Ashley Banfield, makes a great case about this accusation, saying that it's basically damaging the whole movement because there are a lot of other women out there who've suffered real sexual harassment, real sexual molestation, real rape. This is not one of those. This is just a bad date. And I think that's what's happening. What the problem with the Me Too movement is that it's encouraging all women to come out, not all women, but many women, to come out and just talk shit about people that they just didn't have a good time with, and say some things that aren't actually sexual harassment and don't belong in the same category. And I think that's bad. And it is a form of, can we say reverse censorship? Because apparently, as a result of the Me Too movement, men are becoming fearful of hiring women, which I'm surprised that that's happening. But I guess, that would make things easier. If you got no women in your office, unless you got a predatory homosexual. As long as you don't hire a Kevin Spacey, you're going to be okay, I guess, which is the mindset. But it's making it a kind of a witch hunt. It's kind of a reverse oppression towards men. Men are afraid to do anything. As Seth Meyers said during the Golden Globes. This is this is one of the few times where a man's name can be spoken aloud in public, and he's not going to be terrified that someone accused him of sexual harassment or some other sexual improprieties. So it's screwed up, and some people are saying that now that's jumped the shark, right? And a woman who actually has been against this from the beginning, I believe, from the beginning, is a woman named Catherine Deneuve. She's a French actress. I know the name, but I don't really know what she's been in or anything. But she's about 9 days ago or so, she signed a letter in France. And in France, by the way, in France, the name of the movement is called Balance ton porc. Balance ton porc. That's what Me Too is in French. Wow, that's pretty. That's a funny name. Balance ton porc. Yeah, so she and about 100 other people, and she's the most, I guess, famous one. 100 other people in France complained that the movement was oppressive and censoring, and it's just bad. It's not a good thing, and they're against the whole thing. But she issued 2 days ago, she issued an apology to make sure the people who are victims didn't misunderstand her. And that she's not against the victims at all. And if there are victims out there, she's so completely supports the victims. She's just against the movement of basically she thinks it's a witch hunt as well. So that's the international aspect of this whole thing. Okay, now let's jump. I am in Japan, as you probably may or may not know. I don't know. Oh, a couple other things. Yeah. About Catherine Deneuve. She thinks that men and women, and I gotta say I agree with her. Men and women, of course. Okay, so men and women play. We flirt. I'm a big flirt. I flirt with a lot of women, and I'm married, and my wife knows that, and I've flirted even in front of her, but nothing, too much. Though I have been accused of sexual impropriety as well, and when that happens, I've been very upset, and I've done my best to never interact, to apologize and never interact with that person again if that's the way they felt. On one occasion. On another occasion, as I made a video about that before, I believe wrongly accused of sexual impropriety. But again, my hands were tied because of the way society is. You can check that video if you want to. I actually called it Me Too because but it's kind of a reverse thing. But anyway, the point is, men and women naturally flirt. I look back to the movie All of Me with Wild and Crazy Steve Martin. There we go. Steve Martin, yes, All of Me. A long time. It's a really old movie, but he's engaged in the movie, but he's flirting with the waitresses, with the other office secretaries, and things like that. That's like normal stuff. People do that, right? oh, you look pretty today. Oh, that's a nice dress. Right? You look great. Things like that, can be construed as flirting, or nowadays with the Me Too movement can be construed as sexually inappropriate, right? And I was watching Birdman with Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton and Edward Norton. And Edward Norton slaps some girl's ass as walking, or he says, "Hey, you have a great ass," and he says, "Get over it. This is Hollywood, right?" But and this was made long before the Me Too movement started picking up steam. But I wonder about things like that. I mean, that's the way people act. Is saying someone has a nice ass, is that sexually? I guess it is. I've never said that with someone I just knew. I've said it to female friends, you know. I've said it on video. I think the Japanese woman that I do videos with on this show sometimes, I've said that to her on video, right? Actually, probably more on video than privately, if ever privately, because it's kind of funny for you guys to say things like that. But she's always been comfortable with it. So, you know, again, it depends on your level of comfortability, is that a word? And your relationship, things like that. But in Japan, did I say everything I wanted about that? Yes. In Japan, they are surprised by this, and they're confused apparently by this whole Me Too movement. And let me explain something a little bit. First of all, there is no Me Too movement in Japan. Okay, and here's something bizarre. I couldn't believe it. They recently polled a bunch of women, and where's the poll? Yeah, a 2014 cabinet survey found that only 4.3% of women say they were victims of sexual violence. Wow. However, as everyone knows, sexual molestation or rape goes unreported in Japan, but sexual harassment or sexual molestation is very high, to the point that in Japan we actually have special women-only cars to protect women. There are a couple like crazy guys who are against it and think we should have men-only cars, because there have been very few but high-profile cases of women accusing men of sexually harassing them, and their lives are ruined. Because if that happens in Japan, you know, women will grab your arm and say, "He sexually harassed me," and they'll grab. There's been 1 or 2 cases of a woman doing this to a man, and it scares men to the point that some men will ride the subway with their hands up because they're scared of being harassed. So it's not like Japanese women are so submissive that they will never report it. Of course they will, and they will fight. But I've seen women in Japan being physically abused on the street on a few occasions. I've actually got videos of that up there where I've intervened. So it does happen. The thing to take away from that is not that Victor is a hero or anything, or that is special to Japan, because it happens all over the world. The thing to take away from that is that other Japanese don't generally intervene. But I think if that were to happen in New York City, people would shout at them, and women would come in and say, "Hey, are you okay, honey? You know, help him out, you know," and give the guy shit, right? I've seen a guy. I saw a guy hassling a girl in New York City years ago, when I lived there, and everyone else on the subway gave that guy shit. Like, people are kicking the shit out of that guy, right? People defend each other in other countries, and of course it happens in other countries as well. I've seen people. I don't remember specifically, but I've seen people, give criminals hell in other countries and harassers hell in other countries, but not in Japan. I rarely, if ever, see anything happening in Japan. People generally, mind their own business here. But regarding the Me Too movement, they don't understand it, because they think that American women are past that point of being submissive at all. And that if a man dared to harass an American woman, well, she would just slap the shit out of him. Which does happen, I'm sure, but it also doesn't happen. I mean, as we can see by all these reports recently, there's a lot of American women who don't say anything until the next day, or a few days later, or even a few years later. People just don't feel comfortable. So, although American women, as the article that I'm linking in the description does point out, American women do still need the Me Too movement, and they do need that organization and that support. They're a lot closer to the day when they feel freer to speak up about it than Japanese women, who apparently do not feel free regarding it at all. There are tons. If you look for them, there are articles about women who have come to Japan expats like myself who have accused men of rape and who've gotten nowhere with the police. Generally, the police, from all accounts that I've read in the newspapers, they're not very supportive at all. Honestly, I don't even know if they have rape kits or anything like that. But they say, "Are you sure?" And there's a famous case of a woman named Shiori Ito, who accused a very famous journalist of raping her. And she went to the police, and the police said they were going to do something about it, but it came down from up above that they weren't going to do anything, and the guy never got, nothing ever happened, right? So she ended up writing a book called The Black Box about it, and again, you can read about that in the article linked in the description. But anyway, it's rape is a big problem all over the world, of course in Japan too, and probably in a way worse in Japan because there's even less support or infrastructure. Is it social infrastructure? Is that a word? To help the women who do feel that they have been victims of rape and sexual molestation, etc. There's not much you can do. Yeah. So anyway, that's the situation. All I can say is that I think, yeah, maybe it's going. Maybe I think no. I think it's gone too far. I think people have to sit down and say, hey, this is okay, that's not okay. And I'm glad this woman is speaking up, this anchor woman who spoke up about Grace, the Aziz accuser, and said, hey, when women like this start complaining about just bad dates and bad sex, well then, you damage the whole movement. So anyway, as I said, it's not really picking up any steam in Japan. It's not getting any attention in Japan much at all. They have talked about it a little bit in their variety talk shows, but mostly they're confused by it. And from their analysts, one of the, I think his name is Otake. Otake, Makoto Otake said, according to this, I'm probably guilty of sexually harassing people as well, according to the examples that I'm reading about now. So, and I guess to be honest, if I'd have to agree. Me too. I'm probably guilty as well. New rules, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Again, this is a long ass video because that's what it is. It's a laundry video. It's a thing that covers many different aspects of one topic. And I didn't even have a drink today. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video.
Bye bye. Yeah, bye.